Hello, everyone. Welcome to the, let's see, what is it? The November 3rd Select Board meeting in the town of Richmond. First public comment. Mary.
Hi, Mary Hoole, I'll project. On item J and your 9:15, I'm questioning why there's a need to go into an executive session for either of these two items. I learned from Steve Goodkin when I was on a board with him that a lot goes into executive session that doesn't need to be. So I really would like to see that as an open discussion rather than an executive session, because if the town of Richmond is participating in this, the entire town will be paying a portion of it. So this needs to be a public discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else?
I'll turn the video.
Come up. Yeah.
Thank you. So, I'm Bruce LeBounty. I'm Kara LeBounty's husband. I wrote this down to stay within my 2 minutes. I'm here to talk about my wife's mental health after she was attacked in public during a select board meeting by current select board member Jay Furr. Only one of the select board members defended and cared for my wife, Caitlin. Thank you. This was not the one-time event. People have pointed out that Jay has a history of attacking community members at select board meetings. If Jay is truly sorry, he would take full accountability for his actions and he should resign. Jay claims people have called him in support of his attack on my wife. If this is true, shame on them. All are not welcome here and he should resign. Jay would never accept this behavior from another politician. If he believes this is unacceptable, he should resign. If Jay cannot control attacking others and cause mental health trauma on the community members, he should resign. My wife, Kara, is a very strong woman, and to this day is still shaken by him chasing her out to her car and by screaming member of this board after clearly saying no and leave me alone. What about her mental health? And what about other community members that are afraid? Again, he should resign. Please fix the meeting minutes and remove the word argument. Kara was attacked. There was no argument. Kara pleaded for help and only Caitlin stepped up to defend her. Thank you again, Caitlin. I'm aware you were also shaken by witnessing Jay chase her to the car in the parking lot. All are not welcome here. Thank you.
Bruce. Anyone else? Public comment? Anyone online? I guess we'll move on to additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to change? On to the meetings. So first we have a reminder of the upcoming budget meetings. We have one on the 10th and one on December 8th. And then we have a final meeting on January 6th, which will be a presentation of the budget for everyone to ask questions, and hopefully we'll have something finalized to talk about by then. Anything like to add, Josh, or anyone? So the dates are November 10th, December 8th, and January 6th. Next we have a special meeting tomorrow, November 4th, which is like the first draft presentation of the town plan. This will be the first presentation of an entire draft. It's kind of a roundtable workshop presentation, I believe, right? So encourage everyone to attend, input, review. I believe everything's posted and available to review ahead of time too.
It's going to be in the library or Camel's Hump? The meeting.
Library.
Library.
Okay,
I
thank you.
think there's desserts and coffee starting at 6:30 with meetings starting at 7.
I think it's
For anybody who wants some pie.
allocated about 7 to 9,
Yeah.
about 2 hours, right? But I think
Thank you.
that's-
Depending upon how the discussion goes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't think it'll be shorter than.
And it's also on Zoom for those that don't want to attend in person or prefer Zoom.
Want to do a Halloween, thank you.
I can.
I don't want to just.
Finishing your Halloween
I
candy.
don't want to ramble for the first 3 items.
Yeah, so it's, once again, thanks to everybody, especially in the Richmond Village for a great Halloween. Thanks to Marshall Paulson this year for gathering a bunch of candy from people who come to participate in Halloween, but don't have a lot of trick-or-treaters at their house. I think you've got what, like 17 laundry bags?
There was over 14 medium-sized laundry baskets overflowing with candy that were distributed to households all around the village.
Yeah, it was
It's a wonderful response, Mayor.
Yeah, so thank you, Marshall, and all the residents of the village. And once again, it's always so much fun to walk around with my kids and see all the decorations that people put out, see all the great costumes. There's probably over 1,000 people here. I think I've heard 400 to 450 trick-or-treaters, depending on who you ask, who was counting. And that's on a day that the weather wasn't great. It was sort of rainy and not awesome, but kids were out there getting wet and getting a lot of candy and lots of cheer. So thank you, everybody.
I would love to know how someone would even begin counting that mess, but anyway. I guess we have another update on the completion of ethics training by everyone in town. I guess it's covered by it, which is all employees, volunteers, board members.
Yeah, so we've picked up a few. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. And let's see. So we went from where's the biggest pickup? So staff went from 91% to 97% on signed ethics forms. Also volunteers increased from 67% to 74%. Fire department had a great increase from 18% to 41% on signed ethics forms. So great to see that people are responding to it. We've also put an online form where staff and volunteers can online sign that they've read the ethics policy. Trainings were still lagging a little bit, but we're picking up a few here and there. That's a little bit more cumbersome, but I think as we continue to talk about it and bring visibility to it, we'll get more in.
Great. Anyone have anything? Questions?
Last time we talked about this, we talked about getting with some of the leads of each of the committees and having them work with folks on their committees. Have we done that?
Yeah, I think Duncan has sent out a few reminders and tried to get in touch with the committees to help them move that forward as well. Yeah. Duncan's done a great job. I want to say thanks to Duncan for leading the charge on outreach. And again, we're not perfect yet, but we're a lot better than we have been the last couple of years on the acknowledgement form signed. So, we're getting there. Our goal is still 100%.
Of course.
I'd just like to add, we discussed this at the July 4th committee meeting. The July 4th committee is kind of unusual in that we have the people who actually do the work and we have people who did the work for decades and decades, but who are really kind of stepping back from it. And all of the above are on the committee, even though only half of them actually come to the meetings and the other half really should not have been appointed. But we appointed them at the committee's request. So I don't think you're going to get 100% from that committee. If you get 50%, that probably will represent all the active members. And we should come to you with a motion or a proposed motion to change the membership to certain people. I just neglected to do that for this meeting.
You say change it to certain people, not 30 people. Okay.
No, just 30 people. There's about 8 people who are actually. Yeah, and we would have a hard time making a quorum if we insisted on all the people, but fortunately, we're not making any actions right now. But I do need to bring you a motion with a list of proposed people for the next meeting so that we can right size that committee.
Perfect. Anyone else have anything? I guess on to E, which is a discussion of guidelines for select board meetings. So I know we had talked about this casually, kind of floated some ideas. Josh did some digging. There's been a rules adopted by the select board and revised. I think it's been adopted once, revised twice.
Seems like that.
It's in the packet. Did you guys get a chance to take a peek at that?
Right, these dated back to 2015 and they.
Yeah. I think they were updated 20.
It was 2015.
Was that the most recent update?
I think so, although I didn't have a signed copy of the 2015 update. I had a Word copy that said it was approved. But we really, we haven't used that as an active document. Yeah, I'll pull it up. We haven't used that actively for the past number of years.
So it's 96, 2000, 2007, and 2015. Covers a bunch of stuff. Yeah. It's hard to summarize.
Yeah, I mean, I think it covers a little bit about in-meeting procedures. It also covers some ethics things. It talks about liaisons to different committees and town staff. So I was sort of looking for what guidance do we have already for running meetings. But looking at this, there's probably a number of things that could be updated with sort of how we're working now, what works best for the select board, because this hasn't really been looked at in 10 years, if not more. Well, at least 10 years. And we want to add some things to it. You know, there is a spot there about running meetings. There's a reference to Robert's Rules of Order. But are there any rules that the board would like to kind of call out as sort of the top 5 or 10 best practices?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
One thing that was discussed while I was out of the country was the idea of once the motion has been made, the discussion would then be limited to the select board.
Sure.
I think that's something that's gonna be the rule. We need to make sure that everybody present knows it.
Okay.
These rules don't do any good if we don't look at them and if the public doesn't have access to them. So once these are done being reviewed, I think some sort of short, easily digested document should be available at all meetings.
Agreed. I mean, I just tossed that out to kind of,
Yeah.
I guess more for the effort to try to keep things concise and to the time limits, just so we don't have meetings going till 10 or 11. But I mean, I'm not wedded to any one of those rules or anything. So I think it should be, the board should come up with some stuff that we all agree on so that we're all, you know, working towards a common goal and on the same page. So I think that's the only one that wasn't really covered in this document as adopted. Anyone else have any input? Anyone get a chance to take a peek at them? It's very exciting stuff. No?
One of the things that I know we talked about casually was that it's hard when people come to these meetings to know like when to speak or when to
Yeah.
come up and when to, you know, say what they want to say and how to participate. And it also, like, even if you realize when to speak, it's hard to understand like what the rules are, which is intimidating and
Yeah.
uncomfortable and so forth. And so a couple of things that we talked about was maybe, and offline, not during a meeting, maybe we could, first of all, when we circulate the minutes, circulate like the top 3 things to know if you're coming to speak in a meeting. Post it on the agenda when you get here and in the chat on the Zoom. So it's just very clear and welcoming for people to participate and be part of the meeting.
Agreed.
So something to write up that would.
I mean, you're all here. Marshall, then.
I will.
That's not specifically covered duking it out, but I would recommend against it.
You know, you seen me fight.
Marshall Paulson, just briefly, is this document that we're referring to available for us? Where could we see it as community members to take a gander at?
Yeah, it's in the meeting packet for this week, and then where is it posted? I think it's under the select board documents on the website.
I'd have to check. I'll put it there though.
It's also really heavy though. It's like 11 pages long. So I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just a couple bullet points of how do you, you know, jump into a meeting.
This guy's so wordy. It's.
Agreed.
It needs to be, it's all of the rules, it's
Very-
everything, but.
Had you given consideration to publishing the motions that you
Yeah,
already
we-
have written in advance and decided who's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
be making the motions, so that if the select board does not allow public input after the motion by the select board has been made, we need to know what the motion is going to be beforehand. Have you decided to make that public?
We really casually discussed it quick. We haven't, like, we're trying to figure out a way to publish it where it's like clear what we're trying to do. A lot of the motions, we actually change them on the fly and stuff. So we're just trying to, yes, we have considered it. We're still working on it. It's
Well,
not a
that's-
no.
Probably be in the guidelines for the select board as well.
Okay,
Since you're redoing those. Thank you.
okay. Yeah, thank you, Mary.
I'd just
Okay.
like to add, we don't make a decision in advance who's going to make the motion. It tends to be whoever feels like doing it.
You all have it up on your screen though, so.
I know, but it may be that David makes the motion or I might. So when you say we decide in advance who's going to make the motion, that's not really true.
Motion is already typed up and presented.
But
That,
they are often amended.
Yeah, so I guess.
a
for everyone,
draft motion.
Josh gives us a memo and he'll give us a
it's like the meeting minute
yeah,
or
the draft
draft.
motion that would accomplish everything in the affirmative, and we can either, that way we check all our boxes and we can do a part of that, all of it, none of it. He does it as a guideline to kind of make it faster, but I understand that looks like it's not transparent, so we're trying to figure out how to make that
Thank you.
transparent. Yeah. Good point, Mary, thank you. Hey, did you have something?
Yeah, I did, again, back to when we get on like item whatever, we're gonna be able to say, you're gonna say, okay, does anyone have any public? So it's very transparent of public outreach at this point? Anyone like to say anything? Are you going to announce that? Or is it, okay, you should read this and you should know this? And for a lot of the general public, they're not aware of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make
Thank
sense.
you.
And I think that to
Think
your
I'm very-
point, and when I say that we'll have like guidelines, that's in addition to us guiding as
Yeah.
well. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to participate and be here and feel like they're welcome to say what they need to say. So
Maybe we should have, just thinking about this, we should have a quick 30-second thing at the beginning that we will guide you through it. So that way it's clear, like there will be a time at every agenda item to have public comment. Some of them, obviously, like the announcement ones, it's not really need for that, but that way it's clear every item, when to talk, and it's not as intimidating. So we can cover that. That wouldn't even take 30 seconds in every meeting.
Yep.
Just so that anyone showing up for the first time is, has less of a chance of flubbing it and being embarrassed, so. Anything else?
So just maybe clarify our next steps on that.
Yeah. So what do we want to do? We have a few of them, right? So we are talking about, post guidance.
yeah, I can help with putting together a couple bullet points and send them over to you and we can work on those.
Sure.
To post in the Zoom with the meeting warning and on the agenda that's
Okay.
printed here too.
And that might be a good next step for next meeting, have the board review those bullet points, and then once approved at the next agenda item, we have those time.
Yep.
Do we want to actually update the document?
I think that would
Yeah.
make sense. Yeah, I think that we should.
So I think if we intend to do that, maybe just as a concrete step, define who's going to do that.
Yeah, I already started to make some notes on it, but so if a select board member or two would like to work with me on other suggested changes, then we come back at the next meeting or the meeting after that with suggested changes.
If I may, I don't want to volunteer somebody, but Caitlin, I think you would be ideal to work on this. You've had a lot of really good ideas.
I think Caitlin would be great at it too.
Well, thanks, guys. Yes, and Adam, I think it'd be really good if the chair and the co-chair to together. So I think that you'd also.
That makes sense.
We wouldn't want only the two young people to be doing it.
Yeah, no, actually, we would.
I will say that I think it might be helpful to have Bard or David discussing it as one of the
Yeah.
two members, just because you've got longevity on the board, so you might say, oh, yeah, we tried that, it didn't really work, or what would really be helpful that we used to do is this. Just,
Yep.
for consideration.
happened.
Yeah, you might have, I mean, granted, you'll be able to comment when we bring it back to the board too, so.
Marshall?
Just a suggestion for what it's worth, as a member of the public who's not on the board, who could potentially be intimidated or understand the guidelines. A suggestion of having someone from the community to assist as well, from the perspective of a non-board member.
I love that.
That's a really good idea.
I'm volunteering.
Great.
It seems like we would want someone who
So
wouldn't necessarily volunteer to have a true perspective on how intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
so is it,
Yeah.
we got Bard, Caitlin and Marshall?
Did you just?
You just exited yourself.
Volunteer Bard?
And took himself out of it.
David was leaning back and Bard was leaning forward, so he seemed more engaged.
Okay. Is this like the Three Stooges? Everybody step back.
You guys can call yourselves whatever you want.
Okay.
And then the last item was, we gotta make some progress towards posting motions or something so that we have.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to post the draft motions for the next meeting, I can post the draft
Yeah.
motions.
I think we have nothing to lose by doing that.
We can't be
Right.
engaged by the board, but, and yeah, we can post that.
I think a disclaimer I'd put is being draft, the grammar may not be as polished as a lot of the other items that.
But the motions, I think, should be okay. Yeah.
And maybe associated with the agenda, like an attachment or.
Put it in the packet.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
Item number 1 in the packet will be draft motions. If that works for you
Okay.
guys.
Yep.
sure.
thank you.
Thumbs up.
Progress.
Thanks, Mary.
Does anyone else have anything?
That's a good start.
Great. Next we have consideration of appointing an energy coordinator. Do you want to go over this, Josh? or-
Sure. So the position of energy coordinator has been vacant for a few months. It's a 1-year term. I think I got that right. A 1-year term, and Matt Steen has applied to be appointed to that one-year term, which would end in May with other appointments. So is Matt with us? Is Matt? Okay.
Hey, Matt. Oh. Do you want to pop up and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to do it, or?
Yeah,
We got your blurb in the packet, but
yeah,
the general public
kind of
didn't.
cover letter. Yeah, so I'm Matt Steen. My family and I moved here in July, from Denver, Colorado. And I've been working in the energy industry for about 10 years or so. I currently work, for the Department of Energy, as a contractor, for a national laboratory, doing energy analysis and research and software development. And before that, I worked in a small consulting firm in Denver, doing mostly commercial building consulting, doing energy analysis for new commercial buildings. And the majority of that work was energy modeling and simulation, so computer-based models to estimate energy use and savings from different energy efficiency measures. And then I've also done a little bit of kind of high-level renewable energy evaluations. So that's kind of,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which I think is part of the tasks for the position as well. Yeah, so generally familiar with energy stuff, and I'm kind of an energy nerd, I guess. So.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to suggest, for the benefit of members of the public who may not be sure what the energy coordinator does, could we please have somebody summarize the duties?
Do that more.
I am not very well versed to provide a summary of the energy coordinator duties, I'm sorry to say.
I honestly don't know the specific duties. I only know kind of my interface. Mary?
He's online. He
Oh.
was the prior one. He might be able to fill you in.
That'd be great.
Jeff, would you like to give us a quick synopsis of the energy coordinator's duties?
Yeah, I'd actually, I'm thrilled that that Matt wants to do this, and I would love to take him out for a cup of coffee and explain to what I've been doing over the past 30 years. Benchmarking is using the Energy Star Portfolio Manager has been something that I've done. I have historical data going back, at least 10 years, maybe longer. And I'd be happy to turn that over to Matt. I've also responded to requests from the select board to analyze various different energy options for different situations and scenarios, like whether to do propane or fuel oil at the wastewater treatment plant for heating that building. I did an analysis on that. I've applied for various different grants for a number of different things, both for the town and for the school district. We applied for a grant to get $500,000 worth of solar panels on Campbell's Hump Middle School that we were successful at. They were much more expensive back when we did that than they are now. So it isn't necessarily a well-defined position. It is what you make of it. And if you have experience in buildings, that's really helpful for the building that you're sitting in right now. There are opportunities and challenges with that building. So looking over Matt's resume, he looks like an excellent candidate to me.
Thank you, Jeff. Jay?
So I totally agree. Your background makes you an excellent candidate. I just, again, wanted to make sure people knew what the job was, and I found it. It's actually in statute, if you want to click on that link. It's not very long, don't worry.
It's a great place to start.
Let me share a screen so I can get it to everybody.
It's in the town plan.
Mm-hmm.
While you're getting that pulled up, we attended a meeting of select board people across Newton County, which I think is on the agenda for next time or something. And one of the topics that came up was energy efficiency in the way that we write out, our, I'm missing the word.
Arby's and energy code.
Thank you. Wait, what?
Arby's.
Yes, no, but also just like the rules around energy use. South Burlington has done a really good job of making some progress towards code that would reduce the overall create energy efficiency. And we were listening to them talk about how they were doing that, and the call from South Burlington was, please start looking at your policy, look at how you can invest in sustainability and what kinds of little things that you can make changes on. So it just coming right off of that, and to have you being appointed, I'd love to have some more conversation about that at some point.
Sure.
Or see some recommendations.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, he has not been appointed yet.
Yes.
Yep.
So do we think he is qualified?
Right.
Yes.
So if we could just real quick, can you make the screen big? Just so everybody knows. I just don't like to point people to things where no one knows what they're being appointed, when we don't know what they're being appointed to. Okay, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We can appoint an energy coordinator, check. The coordinator should coordinate existing energy resources in the town and cooperate with the Planning Commission and the various federal, state, and regional agencies responsible for energy matters. And here's an important one. The energy coordinator may study and evaluate sources of energy which are alternatives to those presently available, with a view toward the more efficient and economic utilization of energy sources, and report back to us periodically. So this is a very timely thing to be appointing somebody to. There's a lot that can be done here.
Forgot the most important one, D,
Yeah.
that they could be required to do
Shall.
things as required.
D.
So would we like to appoint Matt?
This is Caitlin. I move to appoint Matt Steen to the role of energy coordinator to complete the 1-year term, which ends at the end of May 2026.
And this is David. I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
J.I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, aye.
Thank you. Matt.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Could you please give Matt my contact information? I would love to take him out for a cup of coffee.
Sure, I'll email them tomorrow. I'll send you that.
Next, we have a potential appointment to the Planning Commission. I believe we have Chelsea Brooks. Chelsea, are you with us?
I'll see you here. She's not here.
Trevor.
Yeah.
No, I think Chelsea.
Hi, guys.
Oh,
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. For those of us or those in the audience who didn't get or didn't have a chance to review your application, can you give us a quick synopsis of why you want to be on the Planning Commission?
Sure. So I applied to be on the Planning Commission because in the last 6, perhaps a little bit more months, I've been working with the Town Plan Steering Committee for the renewal of our town plan. And in doing so, have learned a lot about the whole process, about sort of what the town plan is, how that works with our municipality as a whole, our zoning regulations, our really any of our land use regulations, and things from how are we going to have more housing all the way down to how are we going to conserve land. And so I've gained a lot of insight into the whole process, and then some personal knowledge around a lot of the topics that are important through research over the last 6 months as well. Anyhow, I am excited about the town plan that is going to be presented tomorrow to the select board. I feel like it's a really great representation of the town as a whole, and the Town Plan Steering Committee members put a lot of heart and solid work into it. And in order to sort of continue with the work and the process and committing some volunteer time to the town, I felt like serving on the Planning Commission would be best suited for me.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I cannot think of a better candidate really for this job. Chelsea, for those of you who don't know Chelsea and haven't had a chance to work with her, she's been before us numerous times relating to the Southview 3-acre rule. And I cannot think of somebody more detail oriented and who has done her research better. She never comes before us without having every I dotted and every T crossed. And I am super excited about her interest in being on this body.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll say that committee overall has been very functional and great. They've done a ton of good work. Hopefully you guys can also come check it out tomorrow. And also that's probably one of the more challenging things, the planning commission or planning commission adjacent tasks that has to happen every 7 years, I believe. So diving in with that and then going into the planning commission is obviously qualified from the get-go. Would we like to appoint Chelsea?
And Mrs. Bard, I'd move to appoint Chelsea Brooks to the Planning Commission to fill the seat with a term ending in 2028.
Adam, this is David. I'll second.
A motion and a second. Vote. Jay?
J.I.
Bard, aye.
David, I.
Adam, aye. Congratulations, Chelsea. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea.
See
Thank you very
tomorrow.
much. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Have a great night.
Next we have consideration of hiring a property management services contractor for the town center building. So this, we have two agenda items. One is kind of a day-to-day property maintenance contractor. So think everything from like changing light bulbs on up to everything below capital projects. So anything that wouldn't be an improvement to the building would just be maintaining it as is. That's the scope of the first agenda item. The second one would be more for capital projects and improvements to the building. So right now we can discuss the first one. Can you pull up? Jay?
I was just going to say, I thought Mary did all that. Don't you change all the light bulbs?
When I get the ladder, I sure do. But for example, I changed all the clocks twice. I changed them ahead and then I came in to change them where they belong.
That's why I felt.
Yeah, I just wanted to go through a year real fast.
So this went out to, we didn't do a bid so much as an RFP, so request for proposal. Since it's not really a set number, there's kind of a bunch of different ways to structure it. We put out some criteria and asked people to kind of pitch what they thought was a reasonable structure and cost. Either, weekly, monthly, annually, et cetera. We got two bidders.
Yep, and then the town center committee reviewed the bids and is recommending moving forward with Cahill Mountain Properties, which is the top one here. They're asking for a monthly retainer of $1,040 per month, which gets us 16 hours of management and general maintenance with $65 per hour after that. So my understanding is that Cahill can do some of the work themselves, or Peter Cahill. But if there's something that requires a specialist, like an electrician or a plumber, if he's not qualified to do that or certified, he would then hire that person. That takes some of the burden off of Duncan, who right now has to chase a bunch of different contractors down to try to get different projects completed. Duncan checked references, everything came back good with Cahill. And if we did move forward with this, I would suggest maybe using money out of the town center, the library reserve fund, since we have some money in there for improvements of this building. And we just had somebody in the chat. Jeff's chiming in that Peter Cahill has done work and we recommend him highly. Organized and professional.
Also lives in town, which is great.
I'd also add that he does work on some buildings here in the village as well. So he's kind of in the hood.
Mary?
Very cool. My question, please, for the $1,000 retainer, is that like $65 an hour comes out of that 1,000, and then after the 1,000 is eaten away by the $65 an hour, then it's an additional, or is the 1,000 just to say, hey, I've been hired?
Yeah, so the 1,000, it looks like the $1,040 a month. It's 16 hours of time.
Okay,
And then it's 65 above and beyond that.
okay, so this
40.
person generally just says, hey, we need to, I'm gonna call somebody to do this, I'm gonna call somebody to do that. That's what the person
My understanding, he will do a majority of the smaller stuff, and then if it's something that requires,
The leak I found.
if it's something that requires like licensure, or like skills above and beyond that, or a crew, then he would come and help coordinate that, or recommend something, but.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions? Anyone think we should even do this? I mean, I guess I have my opinion, but I'm curious what you guys think. Or anyone in the public? Do.
Yes, I think that we should do this. Yes, I mean, this building is, thank you, Mary. I'd rather not that you're not getting on ladders and so forth. I'd love for someone to be here and doing this stuff and helping out. And for that to be their job, this building it needs some love, and it needs someone who loves it. In addition to Mary.
So I'll just say that this concept has come up several times during my tenure on the select board. And I'm somewhat gratified that it's actually moving forward now. And I think it does fill a need versus just asking town staff or volunteers who weren't hired to do this work or necessarily have the skill or expertise to do it. But it's a semi-professional position requiring some knowledge about buildings and building maintenance.
And this building, despite all of its shortcomings, is a huge asset that I would feel more comfortable having it being professionally managed.
Agreed. I'd also point out that it's a pretty competitive rate, and I would imagine if we were paying Duncan or Josh or whoever to do this, not that they're not great at their job, but building maintenance is not their job. So maybe dollar or hour per amount of work, or however you want to put it, it's probably actually cheaper to have them doing the stuff they're good at, and then have someone who's, does this for a living doing it. Mary?
Yeah, do you have a term on this? Is this 1 year and then available for renewal?
It's a good question. Was that,
Thank you.
how are we structured?
It does say 1 year.
I put it in as 1 year. Duncan did you read it closer? Was there a minimum that he needed? I sort of assumed we do a year, see how it goes.
Originally, I think we'd requested an annual contract, but I don't know. To be honest, I didn't when I looked at the actual proposal.
But it also seems reasonable though, like with anybody that would be hired by contract, if they were not performing according to what the
Right.
standard might be, that they hit the road.
Agreed.
Thank you.
So I guess we haven't written a contract yet, right? So we could vote to award this for 1 year.
So I point out, I think that is what our motion should say, and contracts typically have a severable clause, like we can separate with some amount of notice. And it's often written like without a reason, whether we run out of money or we change our minds or whatever it is. So that usually requires some level of notice, but I think the intent here is to do it for a year. And assuming that it's a productive relationship, then it could be renewable into future years as well. We should also review the RFP to see exactly what language we included in that. Because that usually is where you look for the guidance. Did we write it as something that's renewable or not? And typically you want to do that at least for a while, but. So the motion today is really for the first year, and we could investigate that further.
So do we want to?
This is Caitlin. I move to enter into 1 year contract with Cahill Mountain Properties for property management services for the town center building with a monthly retainer of $1,040 and billing at $65 per hour for hours over 16 hours each month, with expenses to be paid from the town center and library reserve fund.
Yeah, this is David. I'll second.
Motion a second. I'll just point out that he does do 10% markup on all subs and materials and stuff, so I don't know if we need to include that.
Jeff asked, will the library be included?
I believe at this time we were just talking about this building, was kind of the scope of the RFP. I believe, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was the scope. And I
That's
think
the
part of that reasoning was the library's actually had a lot of attention over the last number of years, and there's a lot more smaller projects in this building that need to get attention. That said, I mean, I imagine if in 6 months, we determine we need to add the library and we could explore that, but right now it's just for the fence line. And I don't know if you need to include all the additional details, that would be a 10% for overhead insurance and tools we might need. Do you want to include that, just to be
I guess
covered?
it's-
Too late for a question?
Yeah, sorry. And then Mark.
In the basement, and I have, am I supposed to change my light bulb, or what I'm saying is, at what point do I ask for help, or if I can deal with it, I deal with it, and I mean, we don't have heat, but then he's gotta call in the contractor probably for that. I mean, what, as a
Yeah.
person in the space, when do you call, or what are the expectations for this person?
I'd like to interrupt and dovetail, because my question may tie into the answer to this. Is there anything in our, or should there be something in our agreement for a limit to the amount of hours, or some understanding of the hours that he may submit for monthly work? Not to exceed. Not to exceed, or something like that. Some understanding of the procedure if he comes back and says, gee, I had to put in 150 hours last month.
That's a good,
Some oversight
yes,
or.
yeah.
Can I do
So,
that? Can I do that?
I
Can
think
do
this is a function of the contract manager.
I
I
agree.
mean, having dealt with lots of contracts in my career, you don't just write a contract and submit bills, whatever. So there's an oversight typically in a job like this where there's a discussion and monitoring about what are the hours and tasks this person's gonna do versus they show up whenever they want and bill for 1,000 hours a month. So I think that is a question for the details of the contract. It wouldn't have been dealt with at that level in the RFP. And I don't think it belongs in the motion myself. I think that's a function of the contract and the contract manager.
I agree, also agree. We should be able to put language in there that over a certain number of hours, whether that is the 16 or some number over 16 that he needs approval from Josh or the board or someone.
I'd say probably me or Duncan, because I don't, we want to run back to you guys for every 2-3 extra hours.
Yeah.
But if he's like, well, this is gonna take 100 hours, then we might come to the board and say, is this worth it?
Agreed.
I mean,
Eric?
and Judy, I think to get to Judy's
Yeah.
question, I think it'll probably be a little bit of work in progress. I think stuff that you deal with right now, and don't talk to me or Duncan about, you could probably continue to do. But if the heat's not working, if the toilet's overflowing, then call us and we'll call Cahill and get him in. Is
I
that,
still go to you first.
I think for now, yeah, and then we'll see as this evolves, where that would go. But I think as tenants, you would probably come to us and then we would go to the facilities manager who we hired to come and take care of things.
Thank you.
Okay, to establish a third dovetail on this is that each one of us shouldn't individually call the person. We should direct our question to the town manager or Duncan so that it's not 15 different phone calls.
Yeah.
Because that way the town manager, the administration knows how many times they're being called. It's not like, oh, I was just there
Right.
5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and I think that only Duncan or I would be the one that would communicate with Cahill to say, these are the projects we want you to do.
So we would funnel the questions to management. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
So we have a motion and a second. I guess I think there's enough detail in there that we can rely on the contract
Yeah, well,
language. And then we would have to come back and approve a final contract anyway, right? Or is this contract approved with this? now?
I mean,
How do you want to do it?
a lot of times we just take care of it. If you want to see the final contract before we sign it, we can do that. It's up to the board, however you want to proceed. Since it's,
I think this motion is fine. I think the contract, we can detail it there. That's fine.
so do you want us to bring the final contract back, or do you just want me and Duncan to look at it and make sure we've got coverages in there and, you know, we have the 10%, we have the negative clause? Or do you want to review that as well? Doesn't matter to me, whatever you want to do.
I would just expect those things to be in there.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Fair enough.
J.I.
Sorry, I didn't say what was going on. A vote.
J.I.
Bard eye.
Dave, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, I. Now on to another type of management. So this would be more for long-term capital improvements to the building, kind of guide us through some semblance of improvement or rehab of this building. It's not quite as clear a path or defined a trajectory, I guess.
Hmm. So this contract, just for details, it looks like cost is 108,000 for the first phase. And that's just for the project management, not for the actual work. Is that correct?
I think that's correct. Yeah. Did you guys all get a chance to take a peek?
I don't know if it's helpful to dig into the proposal, but this, if you look at phase one, where does it start here?
And there's a timeline table somewhere in here that might be a useful summary.
That's down here a little bit. But basically, they're gonna be looking at the building as a whole, larger capital projects like, is the layout right? Do we need to upgrade heating? Do we need to do something about the windows? Is there anything structurally wrong that we need to look at? Let me zoom in on this a little bit more so you can see it. There you go. There's the timing of this. So I think this would be probably a much more obviously involved planning project than what was just approved. I would also envision, I think it's probably detailed in here, several check-ins with staff and probably check-ins with the select board to say, here's where we're at, where's the next steps? We have forks in the roads, we have decisions to make. And at the end of this, it talks about getting to a total number for a number of projects and most likely a vote from the voters to approve funding for a market basket of products.
So the conversation in the committee, which voted to disband itself, it was down to 3 people, including 2 select board members in its last incarnation. We talked about this will then require some direct communication with select board and town manager about what we're trying to accomplish. In my head, I'm thinking this is like the son of the failed bond vote. So that was too big apparently to succeed. So the hope here is that we get to a scale and maybe flatten it out over a period of time and look at projects that make sense. Together, we don't want to paint and then replace the sheetrock, for instance, or replace the wiring, that kind of obvious stuff. But to start talking about what we actually would do to the building, that flood mitigation was a concern as well, as we're dealing with flooding really close to the building. And, from the discussions in the committee and review of their proposal, one of the strengths of this group is they've done some complex projects before, like literally have done planning and oversight of redoing city halls in several different towns in Vermont and Massachusetts. Like our scale is probably smaller than many of the projects that they've dealt with. And they have kind of a stable of subject matter experts across these different pieces, which you wouldn't expect to find in a single person. Like there's no individual who's going to be a subject matter expert on all the different elements of a building. So that is one of the strengths of this group is both the stable and their experience in managing this kind of project with public entities, including towns and cities.
And we simply can't put off flood management. Of all the things for the town center that we didn't approve, that's the one thing that's just absolutely we have to do.
And similar to, the idea of, okay, we're going to hire somebody with the skills, like we've tried to do this ourselves. I think the people who worked on our previous plan that failed by not a huge margin on a bond vote did really good work. And so part of this is, what did we learn from that experience to inform us on how we could move forward? And I think part of that is just, can we flatten out sort of the sticker shock? Is there a way to do that?
So if we don't do this, then probably nothing happens with the town building. Because no one's driving it except the short-term stuff. Which is the
Anyone have any thoughts, questions, advice? Mary?
Yeah, the $10 million, we all know it would have been more than that, because in the work that the committee had done, they had never accommodated or planned to accommodate where the post office was gonna be, where the town clerk was gonna be, where the police were gonna be, anything in this building. Nothing could be in this building while they were doing any rehab because of potential asbestos, dust, and so on, environmental hazard. The OSHA guy would be calling my mother about it, but the reason it failed is because there was some consideration that wasn't looked into, and $10 million was a lot of money. These projects need to be done one at a time, not gut the whole thing and start over. They need to be done one at a time. Every one of us walks into this building where all those bricks are crumbling, and they've been crumbling over 10 years. Where Gary Bresser's outfit did the addition on the front portico, the bricks are starting to come out from behind there because the installation of the copper pipes was somehow incorrect, and the copper pipes collected the water didn't go out, and it froze and they burst. So I see that when I come in and out to do the plant care out front. A lot of you folks don't see that, but we cannot avoid seeing where the brick is falling out of the building. These need to be done one at a time, not the whole thing, and that's probably the reason that $10 million bond issue didn't go through. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything? I don't really. I don't know, I read the proposal, read the other one a bunch of times, and I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I feel like we need, again, like, are we investing in this place or not? Do we want to watch it crumble to the ground, or do we want to put some money into it to make it a landmark of our town that's thriving and growing over time here?
I don't think we can put off addressing the flood issue.
Yeah.
We've got to waterproof this building, and none of us know how to do it. You know, the windows leak, this place is poorly insulated. There's so many things about it, we could go on for hours, but there's one thing we can't do, and that's have the building be just totaled by the next big flood.
Matt Steen, just to, I guess, respond to your comment about doing things visually. I have no history or background information, so it might be off the mark, but there could be like economies of scale, so to speak, and doing it all at once, like hiring all these different contractors to do bits and pieces. You know, that's going to add up versus having one person manage the whole project and doing it all at once, as inconvenient as that sounds. Just having worked on a lot of building projects, like for example, if you're going to put solar on your roof, you don't want to do it right before you have to replace your, want to time these things, so it makes sense. And then another recommendation, again, coming in here, living here a few months, like prioritizing projects in the building, like the flood, like health and safety, obviously, I think first, like, and then energy efficiency and all that, like last. So function of building, being welcoming and, you know, safe and the town and useful is, you know, the first priority. So just simple recommendations.
There's one member of the committee who might have something.
Yeah, Mike.
I spent a lot of time going through this here when I was going to meetings. I think there were a number of the thoughts that we were having was that there are a number of things that could be done in small pieces over time. Some of them we could start right away working on, and others maybe we gotta wait years until the money builds up in the account or something. But there are some things that really need to be done all at once. If you're tearing there were a couple of proposals to redo the whole heating ventilating system, which means you're going to be putting pipes through the ceilings and so forth. And another one to do a sprinkler system. Well, if you're tearing the place all apart to do one, you really ought to do both at the same time. And when you get in, maybe there's some wiring that needs to be done as well, and maybe we want to move all around. So I think there needs to be a relatively large chunk of things that hopefully much smaller than the chunk that went down in the bond vote, but, you know, a significant amount that needs to be done altogether. And then a whole list of things that we can do in bite-sized pieces as the money's available. But they need to be coordinated, so we aren't starting these bite-sized pieces that are gonna be torn apart when we do other parts of it as well, so.
Agreed.
Wouldn't that be what a project manager
Yes,
I think
would
that's,
decide?
yeah, that's part of this.
This.
yes.
Yeah, I don't think our goal of this, I guess, wouldn't necessarily be come up with one huge project. It might be a phase project, but to make sure that all the phases have minimal rework and are efficient and cost effective.
Thank you.
I would hope, I would believe that would be the driving goal.
Mhm.
I do.
Um,
What do we, if we were to do this, where would the money come from? Do we have?
I mean, I'm again recommending town center reserve fund.
Yeah.
Not really budgeted. There's, what's the
Yeah, I don't
balance?
think there's a budget line
Yeah,
item.
there's $384,000 right now in the town center and library reserve fund. It does go up and down a little bit based on rents and expenses, but I think we have $100,000 to put at this. I don't know where else we get it from.
Makes sense, the money we've built up from rents and reserve accumulation could
mostly
go
rents,
towards
yeah.
improving this building.
Yep.
Or at least
Yeah.
creating a path to improving it.
did we get back information? I didn't see it on if they're experienced with flooding,
Flooding, yeah.
flood management.
Yes,
Well, what's that?
yes, and yes.
Did we, I don't know, Duncan, you were gonna, I think they were saying that to you over the weekend or today. I don't recall that I saw it. Did you see the response on the flood mitigation?
Yes, I thought I sent you that, but yes, they got very good flood mitigation reports and they got great technical reports that we can post later, but I sent those earlier today.
All right, I must have missed them.
That was one of my big concerns.
Great, then I'm good.
Mike,
One concern, I mean, you know, the big advantage of Colliers is that they had a large group of people that they can draw upon. I was looking through though, it was hard for me to see which people are gonna be working on our project. Who is the person that's gonna be here in Richmond that we can talk to? There's some lists of people, there's a list of hourly rates for different people, and they have listed here a director, a senior project manager, a project manager, and assistant project manager. And do we need 4 levels of management to do this? Is a bit of a concern, and there's some others that is, there's a lot of different people listed. But are all these people gonna be working on our project, or, you know, what is their?
Right.
Who's the guy that that's gonna be here, working with us? It wasn't clear to me how that.
So from their proposal, it says, I can share this again.
They've got an org chart here.
Yeah, but there's a blurb here that looks like it covers it. It says, to accomplish this goal, your project will be assigned a project director who will oversee all Collier's project leaders' activities related to the project and ensure the town is well served. Team, sorry. And in addition, the project manager will be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the final success of the project. So we've got a project director who's appears to be Derek Osterman, a project manager is John Park, and then there's looks like 3 representatives with some specialties. Cesar Collardo Felix for construction, MEP support from Sarah Maston, and financial monitoring reporting from Town Win. Sorry, I'm between the name, but it looks like those are the 5 people that are gonna be working on this project, according to the proposal.
But I think, you know, the top guy there, Osterman, his name, he's the one that showed up at our committee meeting, and I gathered he was the head of the whole company down there. You know, it isn't necessarily how much, I didn't believe he might be spending a whole lot of time personally on this project. So
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's the leader and then the manager does some of the day-to-day stuff, so.
yeah, I mean, I would
Like they're
expect,
sort of working
Yeah.
together.
I would expect their
They
PM
have
to
been
do-
very personable with their responses, so I've been in contact with all of them.
Yeah, I would expect the PM to do like the day-to-day
yeah,
management of all this stuff, and then I would imagine Derek checks in them and has deliverables for us and would be at meetings to put that all together.
And
Prob-
if I remember correctly, this was a fixed price for the deliverables.
Right.
I mean, as opposed to, you sometimes see this, oh my gosh, look at the salaries here. And well, they just like keep submitting timesheets. But the proposal is really based on apparently their experience that they think they can do these deliverables for that fixed price.
You're not paying for every phone call, every paperclip, every email.
Mary?
Of course. So again, with these 5 people, is there a not to exceed amount, which I would desperately love to have included? Because that tells them they got a time frame to work on, and when the checks are gone, they're gone.
Yeah, in this proposal, that's it's a fixed price. So it wouldn't be like a T&M thing after that. That's a hard price.
Well, when I heard this gentleman talking about how much they charge per hour, I'm hoping that's not in addition to what the 100,000 was.
Well, I kind of, you know, they do have a list in here of what the hourly rates are for a whole list of people, and if it's a fixed price, why would that even need to be there? Why, we don't care what they're paying.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be 100,000 plus,
Plus all this stuff, yeah.
because it just off the cuff, it sounds like, we get this and we're gonna get this much more.
We'll ensure that, my understanding was it was a lump sum for phase 1.
Right.
And we'll ensure that and make sure that's in the contract. And if it's different, we'll come back.
And phase 1 gets us to the vote.
Yes, that's.
It's that whole timeline you saw all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, so that was my understanding too, is they gave us a fee schedule. I think it was more to see how they broke out the cost and how they got to that estimate. But they definitely proposed it as a fixed fee for their deliverables, which was to get to a vote. They did not guarantee a passing or failing of the vote. Fortunately. Oh. Mary, go ahead.
Not me.
Oh, sorry. Mary Ann? Mary Ann, we're waiting for you.
Mary Ann, you're unmuted, but we don't hear you.
If you can type it out in the chat for us, Mary Ann, if you're still waiting to talk. Anyone else have anything? What do we want to do?
She's gonna type it.
Awesome, thank you.
What, we'll make a motion while she's typing and then we can decide what to do with it. Oh, thank you. Okay. I move to enter into a contract with Colliers Project Leaders for organizational project manager services for the town center building at a cost of $108,000 for the first phase of the project, with expenses to be paid from the town center and library reserve fund.
This is David, I'll second.
Got a question there?
Sure, yeah. Mary Ann, this is just the fixed price to get a proposal of what we're gonna do. This wouldn't actually cover the construction costs, so this would get us to a proposal and an estimate to get through a bond vote, and then that bond vote amount would then cover the actual construction cost. And I do agree, fixed price on an old building would be tough. Mary, did you have something to add?
No, I was just waving to the people in the hall, but
okay.
thank you.
So this, to be clear, this isn't going to cover the actual construction on the building, just to make that super clear. So we have a motion on the table in a second. What you guys want to do?
Vote.
Yeah, vote.
J.I.
Bart, aye.
David, I.
Caitlin, aye.
Adam, aye.
Hmm.
So we have just about 2 years to get our final deliverable. Means everyone here cannot be here anymore. Great. Next, we have an update on the Southview Stormwater 3-acre permit, and then we do have a possible executive session to get some legal advice.
I am recusing myself.
Caitlin has recused herself. She lives in Southview, so she's not going to take as select board member. What do you want to do, Josh?
Yeah, let me pull up. So this is really sort of a, I guess, a partial update. There were some questions submitted from Southview residents regarding getting to a special assessment district. So I reached out to our attorney, looked at some guidance we already had, and reached out to the engineer to try to answer these questions. I wasn't able to answer all the questions, but the answers I was able to get, I've provided here in this document in red. I should have more on the full cost of construction and remaining engineering later this week, so we'll have another update at the next meeting. And I did get some preliminary answers from the attorney on some of these, but I had more questions about his responses. So before I put that into a public document, I wanted to make sure that I fully understood where he was trying to go with some of those responses. So this is sort of a check-in, partial response to some of these questions. We can talk about these, see if there's any more questions, come back to the next meeting with hopefully close to all of them answered. And then, as you mentioned, the attorney did have some legal advice for the select board that you could consider if you wanted to discuss more in executive session. That's what the executive session was for. I'll leave it at that.
What would we like to do? Did everyone have a chance to look at the answers? Any follow-ups you want to ask? It sounds like it's going to be.
Do we want to go over the answers with?
Yeah, do you want to go over them? Is there anyone?
Sure, we can walk through them if you want.
I mean, I think that would be the obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
So, ballpark estimate of the construction, in July, we had an estimate of $360,000. Again, I followed up with Andres Torizo to ask if there's any changes to that. I know there was talk since then of removing one of the chambers, which would probably reduce the cost. So hopefully I'll get more answer on that next week. Question about the estimated yearly maintenance costs, and Paige emailed me, I think on Friday, that I sort of misinterpreted this. They want to know what are the costs each year for maintenance. So I'll follow up and try to get that. The split would still be, 36.2% town, 63.8% of the Southview residents, and that's based on the share of impervious surface, which is 36.2% for the town. Next one, any costs to be expected with the 3-acre Southview properties to pay. So the town would have to estimate those costs, but ultimately the town might be on the hook for additional costs over and above what the initial special assessment's for. So if there's additional cost, does end up falling on the town. How will we build? So the proposal would be to divide the portion for the private property owners, which is a 63.8% share, equally among all 48 properties. How do you expect the homeowners to vote? It wouldn't be a vote. In this case, it'd be a special assessment. So once we had a document made up that would describe the special assessment, describe everything that goes into it, how much we're asking for, it would then be a process of getting 25 properties to fully sign off on those documents. So in the case of joint ownership of a property, you need both property owners to sign off, not just one. Once you have 50% of the properties have opted in, that then becomes your special assessment district, 50% or more. Thoughts on helping with grant funding. I don't know of any grants right now. Should they become available, we would certainly apply for them and then try to figure out how to apply them to the project. How long would payments be for? Would propose a 10-year period. I don't know that we would need much more for $360,000. And then there was a question about if the town takes over the permit. Oh, sorry. No, and finally, I think this was about the timing for, a lot of their state guidance isn't due until later in 2027, but they need the notice of intent in by March. And I think that's mostly tied back to the fact that this is ARPA money and there's federal deadlines to spend and obligate that ARPA money. And that's why that grant deadline is probably earlier than some of the state deadlines, which is frustrating, but I think that's the reason why.
I had a couple questions based on some of the answers. Paige Galita, Southview resident, fortunate Southview resident. And the first one, the estimate on the construction, there's also an overage on the engineering costs, correct? We're at like 45,000-ish, we thought maybe.
I think, we were like close to 40, I think, right now. I haven't looked at it, but it was, yeah. So, and there would still be more engineering, final design, and then construction oversight. So that's what I'm hoping to hear back from Andres this week on what his estimate would be to get us to the NOI, as well as final design and construction oversight.
Do you think, with that, and when you send this letter, is it gonna say like, it's gonna be X amount for you over 10 years, or can that number change because of unexpected, there's so much we don't know, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's the estimate on the construction, but maybe it's double that, maybe it's, like, we don't
Yeah.
know.
My understanding right now is that once you do the special assessment, you can come in under that, but to go over that, I think you'd have to get another agreement from the property owners, which I doubt they would give. If there's
Yeah.
already a assessment for 360 and it comes in at 400, that's where I think that one of these other responses about, ongoing costs. We don't know what all those ongoing permit fees are gonna be. So ultimately, that's where I think then the town won't be on the hook for those fees, because we wouldn't be able to go back necessarily to ask for more money.
For those that aren't informed on this, but like the issue is that, the town's known about this since 2020. We didn't know till 2024. And, there's so many unanswered things that had we started this process back then, maybe this all would have been resolved. The state and the town didn't notify any of us, so. Now we're at this deadline with this money and with still a lot of unanswered information. The second question about the yearly maintenance costs, my understanding is that it's basically like inspect the chambers and vacuum them out if they need to be.
Yeah,
Like,
that's my understanding.
I can't imagine that's more than a couple $1,000. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think the vacuuming's that much. We do that for most of our storm drains every year anyway, so we would just probably add it to that. It wouldn't be a huge expense, I don't believe.
So my little bit of my issue with this is, like, we talked about this last time, but and you explained that in the Greystone agreement, the town's gonna be maintaining anything in the right of way. But anything in private property, Greystone is responsible for. Everything in ours is in the right of way. What I would just like to point out is that these chambers are likely collecting water from other portions of the neighborhood that are within the 3-acre area. The water all flows downhill, and yet we're only, only some of us are paying to maintain that. Just wanted to point that out. And then the division of 63.8% property owners in the rest of town. I'm still a little uncomfortable with the impervious surface. I know some of my other neighbors are, like, that kind of kept changing along the way. There was the whole report they gave us that had pictures of properties in Hidden Pines that aren't even in the 3-acre area. They never answered any of that. So, I don't want to just keep making the engineering bill higher, but it would be nice at some point to just revisit that and get a real answer from Andre. Seemed to me like maybe they hired that out to an independent, a third party. Why were they taking pictures in Pines?
Right.
They never visited my property because my neighbor, I share a driveway, said and they misinterpreted. He just said, I'd like you to come when I'm there. And they claimed that was him not refusing access. So they didn't even look at the impervious surface at our 2 properties. And I believe there's quite a bit there. So, I don't want to keep blowing up the engineering bill, but it would be nice to maybe revisit that at some point.
Yeah, and my understanding of that is they determined the percentage of impervious with, I think, the satellite views to look at where is their impervious. The inspections was more about disconnection and where is that water going off of driveways and off of houses. And that was more about how much water is already being treated through the natural means. I don't think they were totaling up the impervious on the site visits, I could be wrong, but that was my understanding of it, the subtle difference between total impervious and then the disconnection analysis.
So that ratio, does that take into account disconnection?
As far as like, if one house is like 100% disconnected, would they not then have to pay for
That
any of this?
theoretically reduces the amount of homeowner.
No, the total amount of impervious is just a total amount of impervious. It doesn't take into account the disconnection. This is just looking at where is all the impervious and where is it located? What the
That
percentage
seems
is.
unfair, because like if you're disconnected, the water's not entering the system.
And then I guess that could be a discussion on how do we divide up the other percentage of the impervious among homeowners. But
Okay, and I know, the last thing about, well, what happens when this needs to be replaced at some point over the last several months, that somebody asked that question, I didn't think of it, but these things have a life of 30 to 50 years, so
Right.
30 years from now, we're in this situation again, or whatever, at some point, so to me, that plus the maintenance, plus 10 years of paying for this is kind of a forever thing on my property. And then last, talking about the vote, and it says, the new law that they passed this past session, saying that it needs to be 50% of the affected properties, and that, but in this, I don't know if this came from you or the attorney, but that it could go to a whole town thing, and that seems to contradict with what the law they passed this year, and I don't know if the attorney said that, or is that, does one law supersede the other law? I have no idea.
So the attorney did add the part about the townwide vote,
Mhm.
and is that not allowed for this? Because I know that
I don't know.
for normal special, for regular special assessment that's not associated with a 3-acre permit.
Yep.
You can either do it by, I think it's unanimous consent, so you need everybody in that district to sign on to it,
Mhm.
or it's a townwide vote to assess that district. And if the townwide vote got pulled out of special assessment, I'll double check with the attorney, but he did add that part in, because I initially only wrote the part about 50% of the property owners knowing that was the law for the 3-acre rule.
Yeah, I guess I'm just, my understanding sort of that, the legislature put that in there sort of to protect the 3 people in these 3-acre things, and then so then if, I don't know, it was a weird thing that they put in there, but now it kind of makes sense because
Right.
it gives us an avenue to not have to make an HOA or an LLC but does one law cancel out the other? I'm not an attorney, so I have no idea, but it would, and is this the attorney's opinion, or do we need to ask the legislature for clarification on this?
I'll find out some clarification on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
but
Paige, you're absolutely right. One of the things that drives me nuts about this is the contradictions. The legislature, the state's supposed to publish a guide to how to implement all this a year after the requirement.
Yeah.
How good is that guide going to be if it's a year after you've written everything in stone?
Something that people might find very interesting if you have free time in your hand is to watch the walkthroughs of Southview. And about 30 minutes into it, Andres asked a question and he answers, "This is ridiculous, and I think it's awful that you have to do this." That's not the exact words, but it's, basically like, our site is very clean. This is not where the problem is.
Caitlin?
I know that we're working against the state here, and there's a lot of other factors at play, but the reason that we need the special assessment district is to be able to spend the NOI so that we can use the grant money for not just the Southview residents, but and the town. Is there like a limited tax assessment? Can we make a limited one that just covers that time, that doesn't lock us into something for the future, so that when you go to move forward with the next step of, okay, we actually have to do this now because, the things didn't change that were supposed to change. And we, as a result, like it's more than the 360, and we need to think about the long-term plan, before we actually implement what the plan is. Is there a way to do a special assessment district just for this like first use case, and then consider again when we have to do the next piece of things. I don't know. if that's-
So that would be
Just
like,
for the
that would be
engineering.
like for just the engineering and final design, and then another one once we have a better engineer's estimate or actual
Right.
contract.
Yeah, so that
Great
it
idea.
would allow us to get past the submission of the NOI. The town doesn't lose the grant money. We don't lose the grant money. And.
That's a good question.
You'd also get a nailed down construction number,
Right,
Exactly.
an actual
It gives
construction
us,
estimate,
like-
not a shot from the hip.
right.
Yep.
I'm not an attorney, but my reading of the law is that yes, we could, because every special assessment district has to be for a purpose. And so it's just a matter of how you define it. If we have a special assessment district just for paying the engineering costs, then that's what it's for. Now, again, I'm not an attorney, but that's how I read the law.
And I wonder, I think you're probably right on that. I wonder, would the 50% consent rule apply to part of the project, not the whole project? But we can find that
We
out.
might have to do it twice.
No, but I mean,
Oh,
you normally a special assessment district, you have to have 100% consent. And they gave a 50% consent for 3-acre permits, but we'd have to research to see, is that 50% only applicable if you do for the entire thing, engineering and
I see.
construction, or can you parcel it out?
That I don't know, but
Well,
that's a
we
great
can-
point.
what's our answers we can find out.
We could just, sorry.
Caitlin, go ahead.
If we could just accomplish the task of submitting the NOI and getting this grant money so that like no one is losing that.
Yeah.
Then we continue down this path that we've been going, that would be.
I think you put your finger right on it. That's,
Yeah. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, there's just so many unknowns still. It's really hard to vote on something when, it's like, I don't want to vote and give a blank check, like,
Yeah.
that you can't cash from me,
Exactly.
Very reasonable.
And
But a question from Trevor, or I guess it could be Chelsea Brooks in the chat. Was the townwide vote always an option? I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, normally for a regular non-3-acre permit special assessment district, a townwide vote is an option. I have to review the legislation to understand if that's still an option or if it has to be by consent.
My understanding, when I read the law on that or statute, is that it's a special tax assessment district can be voted on by everybody in the town or municipality, whatever, and if 50% vote yes, then it applies, but it has to be for something that benefits the users. So my argument would be, does this benefit me? I mean, it really benefits everybody, because it cleans up the lake. Does it benefit me to have to pay more taxes than my neighbor 5 doors down? So I think that's why the legislature put this extra thing in there. But I don't really know what their thinking was with that.
Just want to clarify, it is Trevor. Chelsea is also logged in separately. So
Another update is they had this regional stormwater utility committee meeting like a couple weeks ago, and Rep North from Addison County went to it and spoke and said, we couldn't say it in the law because we didn't want the EPA on our back, but we want you to repeal this. So that to me is this like, what's coming down the pike with this? I don't think it'll get repealed, but
oh
that's-
God, that would be so wonderful.
I don't know. They want it changed.
Everybody knows this is bad law.
Yes.
Noah, do you have something to say? Online, your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. This is Sarah Heim. Noah's my husband. Also a Southview resident. So yeah, just kind of going to what Paige just said, I do worry a bit about sort of overcommitting at this point. And, I think it's the same point that Caitlin made, but given that there is this committee that's supposed to be studying more effective ways to address the stormwater runoff issue and potentially look at regional utilities, I worry that if we commit to something too early and then they change the rules on us again, that maybe we've overcommitted ourselves. I'm a little concerned though, just sort of thinking through the mechanics of if we vote for like a very limited purpose right now to approve a special assessment just for the initial engineering costs. I don't know though if the state would accept the NOI if the town's not taking full responsibility for it, which I don't think the town would want unless we've agreed to the whole thing essentially. And so, it's a good question that I think folks and the town's lawyer will have to look at in more detail. as to whether or not we can thread that needle, but I'd like to find a way for us to do it because I am cautiously optimistic that maybe the rules and statute will change meaningfully in the next year. And we won't have to be alone in mitigating all the stormwater runoff coming from our part of Richmond.
Agreed. Thank you, Sarah. So it sounds like we have a lot of questions to answer. Seems to be a common theme.
I'm only sort of cautious about the regional utility future. Having seen lots of talk about lots of regional things, virtually none of them have ever actually come to pass. And they founder often on the issues of governance and financing. Who's going to make the decisions and who's going to pay? So maybe this will be different. Maybe this will happen really quickly. I'm just, from a few people I've talked to who ostensibly would know, they seem similarly cautious about both the timing and expectations of what a regional utility would accomplish. I don't mean to sort of rain on our parade, but you know, I would hope for some of that too. I'm not sure when that would ever come to exist, under what authority and what financing, and how that interfaces with what we're currently faced with the 3-acre rule. Like, are you gonna put that on the shelf for a while, waiting for regional utilities to come forth? I'll just say another wild card is, does the EPA still exist?
Yeah.
Like, what are they gonna actually say and do? I have no idea. And if there's one thing that I think is predictable about the current federal administration, it's that is to a significant degree unpredictable. So I don't know what they're gonna do with EPA or even FEMA on some of these issues.
This is all the result of a lawsuit brought against the state of Vermont by a Conservation Law Foundation. And in the settlement, they agreed to this thing called the TMDL, which is the total and maximum daily load reduction in phosphorus into the lake. And there's 4 sectors that have to do this: agriculture, developed lands, and I can't remember the other 2. Something I never knew about a year ago. My understanding is that I think they're hoping that this utility will find a structure to tax everyone on impervious surface that are in the impaired waterway basins, which are Lake Champlain and Lake Memphremagog, which is basically like the whole western part of the state and the northeastern part. So every developed property has impervious surface that everybody would pay a small fee on their taxes, and that would go to fund these projects.
I understand.
And maybe it won't happen. I don't know. You're right.
So then the question is, how much support does that have? Because essentially whoever's paying ends up, it's been my experience that generally people don't want to pay for something they don't want to pay for, whether it's broad-based or not, other than maybe schools. You know, maybe it will happen. Maybe the caution is overrated, but again, I mean, there are some other regional ideas with merit that have not gotten very far in the past. So that's my only caution.
Another question for the you know, attorney, or I don't really know, like, if we submit the NOI, does that legally commit you to construction? Because if you submit the NOI and then they change the law and you don't have to do one of, you know, what, you know, it makes me wonder, are they putting these deadlines there because they want us to do it before the laws change?
No, it's a fair question. One I would certainly want clarification on.
The carrot and the stick.
Caitlin?
One last comment. I think at the end of the day, what we're all trying to get to is like, what steps do we have to take? And will that lock us into future steps? And how much money can we not spend as a collective whole? And how much money can we not lose? So like, if there's a way to accomplish those things, I think that's what we'll.
And I'll say one more thing, that this does affect everybody in Richmond, because there is a portion that the town has to pay in both Greystone and Southview on the public roads portion, so everybody is gonna be paying out of pocket for this in some way, or more than others.
Great, thank you. I got a bunch of questions. Josh, anything else you need to add?
Nope.
Move on.
I mean, do you want to do executive session, or do you want to consider one later? Or are you guys good?
I don't.
don't-
Sorry, I can't speak for everyone.
I can't speak for everyone else. I don't know what I want.
I don't see anything that I feel like would need to be covered in executive session now that wouldn't rather have all these other answers. First.
Yeah,
Sure,
that.
bring out more answers.
Yeah.
Answers usually
That.
bring out more, but. So no.
Right.
Next we have consideration of approving the installation of a speed hump on Huntington Road near 83 Huntington Road / Stone Corral.
No, you don't need it.
Give a quick overview with some visual aids. You want to do that quick?
Sure.
Yeah.
So this was proposed by, so I'll back up. We've been looking at the intersection of Huntington, Bridge Street, Cochrane, and Thompson Road. There was a study done. We had a number of traffic calming devices, four-way stop with some redesign of the geometry there. We had a little speed table, not speed table, but like a teardrop island in this area. The board decided to not move forward with any of those ideas. They were fairly costly. We were working on some paint and some other signage in this area. Road foreman Pete Goslin suggested, well, what if we put a speed hump as traffic approaches that intersection? It might help slow cars down. We've been hearing about cars going too fast through this intersection and carrying more than 25 miles an hour in speed in the Cochrane Road. He was proposing that, hey, speed hump might help address that. They're relatively inexpensive to put in. He can do it with the road crew. So we came back to the board, I think it was a couple meetings ago, with the proposed location, as you can see here, in front of Stone Corral. This is a spot, if you look on the right-hand side, the pink stakes would be about where the speed hump would be. So you can see this on the photo, just to sort of give a general visual.
Right
So
on the
it
end of
is,
the driveway.
it is just next to this driveway, and it is just next to the Stone Corral. So again, just a thought on how to control traffic going into the intersection. We did email or mail out letters to surrounding property owners to try to get their feedback. I did get one in time for the meeting that I put into the packet that was against it. I got another one today that I forwarded to the board that was against it. And I take it we have a lot of public comment here this evening. So I'll leave it at that and turn it back over to the chair with where you want to go.
Is anybody for it?
Well, I would think unless somebody gives me a compelling reason, I'm voting against it. I've heard too many people give me too many good reasons not to build it.
Yeah, I heard a lot of reasons not to do it, at least in that specific location. It seems like people come in to that spot going pretty fast, but a speed hump might not be.
Don't we have a police department?
Eh,
I don't know, I'm not.
Technically speaking, we do, but it's got one member.
I'd say on paper.
What's he do all day?
I mean, he does, yeah.
Can he sit on the corner for a couple hours?
I'm sure you can add that to the patrol.
Or we got about 2-3 cruisers sitting out here doing nothing, while we just park an empty one. You know, park it there, it's gonna slow people down.
What
You know, I've been there for 60 years, I've been seeing 2-3 accidents on that corner in my lifetime. You know, and there's a lot of traffic that goes through there. And if they gotta slow down for a speed bump, and I'm pulling out, it's gonna be an accident. Because I'm not sitting there waiting 2 hours to get out of my dooryard. You know, and if the traffic keeps moving slow, you know, you can get out. But if they are gonna slow down and go with that speed bump, it's gonna slow things down. School traffic's gonna be back down the bars. It's a grade there. Where's all the water gonna run and hits that speed bump into Heidi's parking lot and sit there to freeze? You know, I don't put my A-frame sign on my front lawn because I don't like it stuff on my front lawn. They want to put a sign in the middle of my front lawn saying speed bump. If I have to, I can get out there with a red sign, give me a flaggers to go on the storm down.
Ready?
Okay.
Okay, sorry, got it a little backwards, but.
So Heidi Borman. So I did speak to Pete Goslin, as some of you know, and I did talk to him before I did come to the board tonight. So out of respect for Pete, and had the discussion with him of basically why I was opposed to this speed bump in front of Stone Corral and also Jimmy O'Brien's auto body shop. I was told by Pete that there has been a study at this intersection, which has been going on for a while. And he was basically coming up with suggestions because I think a lot of us were like, hey, Pete came up with this suggestion. Well, it was actually a consultant coming up with one of many suggestions, including an island.
Right.
And the reason I'm opposed to it is because we're seeing at Man and Machine, our clients' vehicles are being actually damaged in the front end to these speed bumps on Cochrane Road, costing our citizens money. So I was told that there was also a truck with a trailer that had to go to Perfection Motorsports to be fixed because it unhitched going over one of the speed bumps in Jonesville. So this is costing taxpayers money with these speed bumps. I was also having a conversation with a farmer, the equipment going down Cochrane Road because of the speed bumps is damaging or potentially damaging their stuff. I can't imagine sitting out in front of Stone Corral and having a nice dinner and a glass of beer and hearing bump as they celebrate. You know, I mean, that's exactly where this is planning on being potentially positioned. I can't even imagine. There are, I think, other solutions to this, and I did talk to Pete about this, and I think we can all agree that it is about safety. It is about the pedestrians. It is about the vehicles, you know, and the drivers. Are they, some of them speeding? Yes. Are pedestrians crossing? Yes, there are. There are two crosswalks from right in front of Long Trail and another one next to it's the old barber, but I'm aging myself. So where Gary's duplex is, right on the corner. There are crosswalks that have the signs. And I said, Pete, what about the flashing lights? He said, it's $9,200 for the set. It's $18,400 for the two of them. Okay, maybe we start there. Maybe another solution. Maybe we have the speed that if people are speeding, have the little box trailer that the police, you know, how fast are you going? Oh, okay. You know, maybe you are speeding, slow down, you know. Or the police officer, we do realize we have Matt, one, and I think he's stretched really, really thin. Maybe from 7:30 to 8 o'clock in the morning, a couple days, just to see people going to school, you know, because they're racing their kids to school because, you know, everyone's late. It happens. If that doesn't work, then potentially a four-way stop at Bridge Street, Cochrane, Thompson, and Huntington Road. Another mention was maybe even like narrowing the road down. I mean, Jimmy, you were talking about that, narrowing it down as a caution. You know, when you narrow a road,
People go slower.
people go slower. So
When I leave, I pull out there, most troubles I have is people coming from this way, turning on the Cochrane Road, or people coming off the Cochrane Road, coming this way. And 80% of it's bicycles. They don't stop, they just, look,
They
when I'm
do.
driving down through, I look over, there's a bicycle almost hitting the side of my truck, just flew off Cochrane Road. You know where you came from, you know, just,
You're absolutely right.
that's the biggest problem. I think the bikes and Cochrane Roads is the main thing. And where they're gonna put the speed bump, times over that speed bump, they're gonna be right back up to speed before when they get to the corner. So the speed bump, if anything, needs to be going almost, I'd put it right in the middle, right across the intersection right there. If they're gonna slow down, they're gonna slow down.
So my feeling on the speed bump, first of all, I want to just thank the board for stepping back. As I heard, I understand you guys were planning on voting on this a couple meetings ago, and I thank you very much for going, okay, public output, not so much. Thank you for Josh for sending out some of those letters to us and informing us. And I think that's why we're here, because now we've been informed, because we knew nothing about this. So I'm opposed, and I'm hoping that for the safety and, you know, the speeding and all of that good stuff, no more damage to people's vehicles. Okay, thanks. And that on it,
through there and stuff at night.
on another question on that, I know it's water and sewer lines going in and the road is rough.
Yes.
When is that project happening?
Hopefully.
Josh, sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's all right. The goal is to get the water and sewer project done next construction season.
Okay.
We're still working on a number of easements before we go out to bid, so there's still a lot of paperwork, but hopefully next summer, and then that will be paved with that project, and then Pete would do an actual full final paving in spring of 27.
Perfect.
That's the plan.
By December 31st of next year is what I'm hearing.
I said 27. Next year,
Josh-
26.
Josh, but those concrete, or not the concrete, the paving people, they stay open longer now.
So not to divert too much, but one of the things we want to do is when you do a major underground road project like that, we want to let it settle for a winter.
Yeah.
And not
I
pave it and then have it shift and then have to redo it. So, but we did talk about, I think, what a larger skim coat, I think we talked about with the paving of the waterline project, so it would be smoother. And then we would come back and do the actual final paving after that. So we're not gonna leave it in as lumpy a shape after the waterline project, but it won't be final until 27. At least that's the plan.
Okay, sounds good.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Caitlin,
We did pause last time, and thank you for being here and for coming in and for speaking. This is exactly what I was looking for, and that I didn't have enough information to make a decision. I don't live there. I don't know, what happens at that part of the road. So thank you for coming and speaking. I'd love to see that. That's all I'm just.
And there's traffic goes through there all hours of the night. I mean, it starts at 3 o'clock in the morning, then from then on it goes heavier. And it's, like I said, the kids, you go stop, it's the speed bump, go over it, then they go jump on their car. My bedroom's 30 feet from that speed bump. Yeah.
Is there a cost to put one of the radar things with the, like?
We have one.
We can park the cart there anytime. The permanent signs cost a bit more.
To be honest with you though, I don't stop speeding until I get a ticket. Then I don't speed, what do I want for it?
just saying what we're all thinking.
Every time they get caught speeding through there, just keep raising the fine up. That's bringing revenue to the town, takes another problem. And it gives our officers something.
Put the officer there, he bring people's attention to.
Don, Lynn?
I love the thought of putting a cop out there, but it's probably not the most eloquent place is to park a police officer outside of the local bar. The optics on it really aren't good. I do think traffic goes really quickly through there. My office faces that. My office is right across from Jimmy O'Brien's. As a relationship, someone going 35 miles an hour in a 25 is like going 91 miles an hour on the interstate. Like that affects the braking distances similarly. So it doesn't take much speed through there. People think 10 over, no big deal. It is. There's a lot of truck traffic that goes through there. I'm sure the people that live there saw the tractor trailer trucks hauling wood chips the end of last week. And then even today, they're running the Jake brakes from Fars Road almost all the way to the intersection there. If they're running a Jake brake that far, they're probably not going 25 miles an hour past, through that stretch. Lots of options were tried and failed on Cochrane Road. They ended up with speed bumps. They're definitely not my favorite solution, but they seem to be picking up in a lot of local towns. There's a lot more density of residences on that stretch. There's more businesses and significantly more curb cuts and traffic flow. So as that area gets developed more and more, I think you're going to have to do something to bring speed down. You did on Cochrane Road. We're going to have to kind of push that forward at some point. It seems like a good opportunity to try something now. They're gonna repave it. If it fails, we take it out, we pave over it smooth instead of waiting 2 years after the fresh pavement's down. I see most of the speed coming from the Huntington side. It seems like people don't accelerate. There's the road ones, but as much coming from the other direction. I don't know if we can do just one speed bump, like just one lane. That may not be a great idea. Maybe it encourages traffic to come into the oncoming lane. Not the best solution. Could the bump be moved closer to Far Road instead of running it right across from Man Machine in our office? Push it right at the intersection with Far Road. It pushes it closer to the speed limit change there. It would also mean that any traffic slowing, at least from the Huntington side, is slowing before they get to the residences. It's a lot to unwrap there, sorry.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I guess, memo, my question is, you guys put speed bumps on Cochrane Road. Was there any study done on what that's gonna do to traffic flows? I don't believe there was, because I was sitting in here in a board meeting after those bumps were in, and you guys were all talking about how much traffic is going through town now. Once you put those speed bumps in, you're gonna redirect traffic through town. Have you done any kind of study about if you put a speed bump in right there, where's that traffic gonna go? You're gonna start redirecting a lot more traffic into these other smaller roads.
And
That's my
there's
thought.
the speed bump on Cocker Road in front of Dave Prince's house. He's still out front hollering at people to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's still, you know, it's not working.
Somebody wants to speed, they're gonna speed.
Yeah, you know, he's like I said, he's still out there hollering at people, waving at people to slow down. So like you said, it ain't gonna work. It's the only thing that's gonna work is if you get tickets.
I think for what's on the agenda for tonight, which is the speed bump, whatever. I've heard what I need to hear. John, I really appreciate your input, and also was John the one that sent one of the emails earlier on? There was another email that was a very similar message.
Logan.
And so I think there's a need for something. It is not a speed bump, in my opinion. I would like to continue the conversation, but not around a speed bump. I'm not in support.
Mary.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. I'd like to just add two things. If we narrow that road, where the bicycler is gonna go, and if we put in a little island in the middle, you've also, made it more difficult for both the cars, the vehicles, and the pedestrian that might be on that road.
We're gonna send a bicycle down Cochran Road down to your place.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Here, there's a
Cochrane had 6 of those speed bumps. I'll be glad to sell you one. And
I have $500.
I go 25 miles an hour, and that little shit, yes, I said it, on his fat tire bicycle passes me on Cochrane Road. Apparently 25 is only for vehicles, but the kid on the bike passes me.
Thank you, Mary. So do we want to take any it sounds like we're gonna take no action on this. I don't.
It strikes me, picking up on what Caitlin said, I think this speed bump in this location is not moving forward. But further discussion of what are the other alternatives, it's revisiting things that not everybody's a fan of, whether it's stop signs or something else. But I think there is a sense that something physical, the Regional Planning Commission traffic experts have taken sort of a dim view of just speed signs and even the flashing speed signs. You get a few more people maybe to follow the speed limit, but a whole bunch of people don't. What they've talked about increasingly in the sort of science of traffic control is physically changing the road. As you said, like narrow road, like.
They can finish putting a sidewalk down through there too, and put another crosswalk down so they can go across the stone crowd.
So those are the sorts of things like, how do you deal with the combination of, there's still a fair amount of bikers that I see going through that area. And you're right, there's more pedestrians than there used to be
A lot more.
coming down through there. And then the traffic and trucks, and then course, school traffic in the morning and afternoon, especially the morning. So anything we do to slow down traffic is going to not be popular with everybody because people are in a hurry to get wherever they're going, right? But I think we ought to reboot and say, what are the other alternatives in a future meeting?
But they don't have to live there and deal with it though, they're just flying by.
That's exactly the
They can
tension.
Jump out and
Yeah.
holler at people all day long, I mean. And come over here and holler at you guys. I'd rather stay home watching TV or something.
Yeah.
We're hanging out at Stone Corral.
I don't drink, so,
Okay, I'll do it for you.
okay.
Peggy Foreman, can I ask then the board to take a vote that you are not doing a speed bump in front of this property?
We don't really do negative
So if you
votes,
could,
so we'd have to make a motion to do it and then I'll vote against it. I guess doing nothing is functioning the same thing, so. I mean,
I just don't want 2 years down the road going, okay, we're doing this again.
to be clear, we could vote against it like some other board could do it again, even if we vote against it.
Or someone could fail to make the motion and then you just have to move on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what's happening now is no one's gonna make a motion, so that's a most biggest endorsement against it.
Adam, I was gonna point that out, that like another group, a year, 6 months, whatever, can make a different decision, so. Exactly. So a select board, Congress, legislature cannot tie the hands of a future select board, Congress, legislature. The future is always uncertain, I suppose.
But tonight, this board is not opting to put a speed bump in.
No, and we need to put a note to talk about this more another time of what we should do. And I like the idea of backing up. You know, the town itself and the downtown area of town, although someone told me the other day not to call it downtown because I thought I was going to Burlington, but you go into town in Richmond.
Might have been me.
Yeah, it was you. That's why I gave you a side eye there. If you go into town, you're starting to see that there's a lot of people who are walking the sidewalks on the weekends. And then if you go out to Storm Corral, you can see that there's people who have ended their mountain bike day out there and are enjoying a beer outside, or families who are out there from town. And as a frequenter of Stone Corral, I can definitely see that there's speed that happens on that road. It's sometimes it is hard to pull out from there because people are coming in hot. And I think that the proposal to put in the speed bump was let's do something to help. I think that the negative effects outweigh the positive effects here, which is why we should move forward with that. However, I do think that there's probably a more holistic plan, like we talked about, to look at how that area is actually working and how we can both potentially reduce the speed with changing the road, but also increase the benefit there with, the sidewalk, bike lane. I know all these things cost money, but thinking through the bigger picture of things of who's going there and how that all works.
Yeah, it seems like the use of that area is kind of like
We
the
can also open up Johnny Brook Road.
use case is kind of changing though, so we probably time to reevaluate like what that area looks like and how it serves a changing, use. Yeah, okay, I think we need to move on.
Thank you all for
Everyone.
being here.
Yeah. Next we have consideration of approval for a request from Richmond Mountain Trails to utilize funds from the Conservation Reserve Fund.
Yeah, so I'm going to represent that. This is J.D. Rosofsky, Chair of the Conservation Commission. I did not manage to get the invitation out to the RMT in a timely manner. So Richmond Mountain Trails is asking for $5,000 from the Conservation Reserve Fund to purchase a brush hog for about $4,000 and a weed whacker, professional grade, and ancillary equipment for about $1,000. Richmond Mountain Trails is currently maintaining a lot of the local trails, and they're doing that using volunteers who use their own equipment. So they had this great idea. They have a shed that they can rent at Maple Wind Farm, and they can store the gear at Maple Wind. They will be responsible for maintaining the equipment and paying for the storage and paying for the maintenance, the gas, all that stuff. In addition to which, they're willing to make these tools available to other town committees like the Trails Committee, the Andrew Community Forest Committee, the Conservation Commission, and perhaps other appropriate volunteers. Their insurance will cover users. Either you are a Vermont Mountain Bike Association member and then you're covered by their insurance, or you can sign a waiver, and if it's a trail that's in the Vermont Trails and Greenways database, then you're covered under the VIMBA insurance. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Without regular trail maintenance, the trails get kind of overrun. So the Richmond Conservation Commission has endorsed sending this to the Select Board with the recommendation that the Select Board approve it. We also added a stipulation that which was amenable to Richmond Mountain Trails, that they work with us on a timetable to make sure that we're not harming any wildlife, like, I don't know what would come under that. Right, it's in the motion. And also that we're not spreading noxious weeds. So you just have to time your cuts so the plants aren't flowering, so you're not moving them all over the place. But I think this is a really kind of innovative and cool approach to using town funds to purchase equipment that will be used to maintain town trails. And this stuff can be shared with other groups. And the Richmond Mountain folks, trails folks will provide the training. They also have the insurance. They'll do the maintenance. And I just think this is a great idea.
Awesome. Thanks, Judy. Bard?
So, I feel like I'm raining on people's parades today. So when I look at the RMT annual report, and today driving by the driving range in Bolton that has RMT signs all over it. And then I'm informed by at least two similar situations at the Select Board, where one was around soccer, one was about something else, where we made overt decisions that based on which towns are going to benefit from this, that who's contributing. And when I look at the documents from RMT, it looks like they do a lot of work in other towns. And then, in my opinion, that I'm assuming the intent is not Richmond only, that they would do it on all the trails that they serve, which includes trails not in Richmond.
Unless the Select Board stipulates that it only be in Richmond.
Yeah, I'm just going to say and jump in. I'm not really comfortable with that, given our history. And I think that's an unfair ask of volunteers to remember this device in this building can't be used there, but it can be used there. And I, again, informed by several previous episodes where our approach was, in one case, the money can only be used to benefit the town of Richmond. And in another case, we looked for a share from the towns that were benefiting. Another alternative, if it's not just for the town of Richmond, and it doesn't seem plausible that it is, that it could be a request on the ballot for voters to consider. Do the voters want to contribute X thousands of dollars to RMT for this purpose, and be clear and transparent about how they're going to use it for which trails in which towns? When I read the description, it used language such as, it was not explicit about Richmond only. And it seems pretty clear from their own documents that it's not Richmond only trails. So that's my sort of caution or concern.
Right. I mean, again, I feel like this is a great way to get our trails maintained without volunteers having to use their own gear.
I agree. And I think if they're going to use it for towns and trails in other towns, then my question, as in those other situations, is it not plausible and in fact desirable for the taxpayers of this town to ask where it will be used and how the other towns would contribute?
I guess
I mean, they do list the specific trails in the application. I mean, I understand your concern, Bard. I just feel like
read the actual sentence if you would.
So I guess I would word it differently is will all the trails that this equipment provided by Richmond be used on be available for Richmond residents to use? it won't be used in any closed trail networks, correct? So like even a trail, if Richmond Mountain Trails were to take this and use it in Richmond and into an adjoining town or something, Richmond residents would be allowed to access that without any fee or anything, right? Like just.
Right.
Is that accurate? I don't know.
I don't believe they were considering, I mean, are you asking Bard that if the?
No, sorry, Judy. All right, no, like all the trail networks, even if they do extend into other towns, they're all open trail networks, right? So even if the trail itself were to be in other towns, it would benefit members of Richmond by having that trail maintained.
That's correct, yes, I would assume. I mean, I still think the select board can say, if you bought it with town money, it has to stay within the town boundaries. I mean, you know, that seems reasonable to me. And then if it seems like that's being violated, then you can say, okay, we're not doing this again.
Who's policing that?
I think sounds like it sounds reasonable and like to say it, but it doesn't sound like it's reasonable in practice, I guess, just from knowing like how chainsaws travel.
I know, but a big brush hog is a bit harder to hand carry than a chainsaw. All right, well, it's up to you guys. I thought this was a cool idea, and I also think it's, these are town trails. They're being maintained by volunteers. If you have some other thoughts on how we could, possibly make this more fair to the volunteers who are using at their own expense, maintaining town-used recreational areas, that would be the goal, is like, how do we keep these trails cleared and not make people wreck their own stuff on town trails?
Aaron? Aaron, go ahead.
I'll preface whatever I say by saying I wasn't planning to talk about this. I'm just chiming in as I'm listening after the speed bumps. I have a hard time spending money that we're all putting towards in our taxes towards something that is maintaining trails that, yes, they're open to everyone in Richmond, but for the most part, I don't think all of Richmond is biking and using the bike trails. And when Josh was just flipping through that document, they were talking about how they have over 1,000 members and they bring in thousands of other people. And one of the big things that the Mountain Trails people have talked to us about when they approach us about letting them use our land is that their people would be so happy to pay for the use of some things. And it seems to me that if they put a QR code up at the driving range or one of these other places where they park, if they truly have 1,000 members and thousands of other people coming, they could raise the $5,000 for the price of a cup of coffee from their users in very short order. And it feels like to me that we could use that $5,000 on a lot of other things. And the Conservation Committee should not be put in a position to spend their funds for something that people who are buying a $10,000 mountain bike, they could pitch in $5 towards a brush hog.
Mary?
Hi there. Very few trails in this town are actually on town-owned property. The Cochrans have a massive network of trails, from what I understand, which no longer heads my way. But just the idea that the folks that use these, as Aaron said, can certainly, with a $10,000 bike, it seems to me you can afford a few bucks for helping out. We're bending over backwards seemingly all the time for people who come here, use our stuff and go home. Everybody can say, oh no, they use our, I have seen people, and I reported this to Josh, they set up their biking area down here by the round church and they have this big spread of food. They go on their little bike run and they come back and they eat their food. They do not use local services. They do not contribute financially to the town. So to bend over backwards for this, it's a little extreme. And if you've ever seen these trails after a few mud storms or in the spring, I don't know why these people don't understand that you should not ride on a trail when it is loaded with mud, because what does it do? It erodes, it contributes to the degradation of the trail. When Southview was in here talking about the water runoff, that's no help either. So it's just a bridge too far. I'd like to see all the trails identified. So where are all these trails that we're all supposed to have access to? I'm never going to go on them, because if I want to go for a walk, I got the backyard to go on. Thank you.
Should I respond to those or just hang out?
I don't think you need to. It's okay. Have any thoughts? I guess personally, I'm in favor of the town doing something to help maintain these trails. I think it's an asset. I do understand the hold up with buying stuff that we're going to ship out of town potentially too, though. So I don't know if there's some model you can come up with, Judy, where the town can help fund a portion of this or something, but I do think that it's going to be a hiccup for a lot of people to have the town buy all the equipment and then have it be used, stored privately and used wherever.
Well, I mean, the equipment would be available to other people who have cause to use it, who are willing to be trained and sign the insurance waiver. So it is somewhat communal property, and there is a problem of like the trails listed in this proposal are town-owned land. And so how do we then maintain those, even if it's not Richmond Mountain Trails? Where do we get the gear to do it? Like for years, Wright Preston has been mowing over at Andrews Community Forest on his own mower. It just seems like if we have town property, like we don't ask people to donate the price of a cup of coffee to maintain our roads. And trails are an important part of the town, and there are plenty of people in town who do ride on them. I mean, I understand your concerns. I'm just trying to figure out how to address this problem.
Sure. Let me jump in. I actually think, Judy, it's not your problem to address. I think it's RMT's discussion. It seems awkward for us to be asking you detailed questions about a third party, and I don't think you can or should address some of the concerns that have been expressed here tonight about the request from them. Approved by you or not, it's really a request for them. So that's how I sort of think about it. Either if you're going to use it to do multiple trails in multiple towns, then as we've done in similar situations in the past, what's the share from the other towns? And if it's a question of just the donation, I would have said that belongs on the ballot for a donation to a social service organization.
I agree.
And they could ask for that and explain it and submit a request, and it either gets voted up or down. I'm not aware of a time that we have committed funds for land or products in other town. We've had prorated shares of like Lake Iroquois, or other bodies of water where we shared across towns. There was an example of soccer funds where there was a long discussion and citizens came forward and said, we don't want the funds that took a long time to be raised in Richmond to disappear into Jericho or Underhill. And so I'm just informed by those previous conversations, and it's not an absolute no. It's just based on what I've seen today and language like such as is not specific, like limited to these. It's exemplary as a phrase. And I think it's pretty clear from the signage and their annual report that they do a lot of work on trails in other towns, and that's not a bad thing. I just question the role of Richmond in using our taxpayers' funds to buy equipment that would appear to be available for use in other towns.
Or on private trails.
Or anecdotally, is anyone familiar with how much it costs like maintain Katy Hill trails annually when they bring their mini excavator up and do all this stuff? And their trails are in way worse shape than Richmond still. So Judy, if they were to word it in a way that we would contract with them annually to maintain these trails on town land, we could be getting a bargain and they could be getting their money. And it wouldn't be this thing where we're giving them equipment. So I think that, the town of Stowe, I think budget's like $25,000 just in like stuff to maintain the land, like material, not even the man hours to like put the material in, not the excavator time, any of that. So like this is, I forget the, it's orders of magnitude bigger than what we're talking about here. So what I'm saying is there is a way for them to get the money they want to have this equipment and also be providing something for the town where it's kind of more defined. So that's what I would say is like, I don't think personally, I'm not opposed to giving money towards maintaining our trails, but I think that the appearance of us giving money to buy equipment that just goes wherever is kind of, it's a little bit, that doesn't sit quite right. But again, that's not I think these are questions that we should be asking them directly. So I apologize that you are stuck in the middle of this.
No, I'm sorry that I didn't get my invitation out to them in time for them to be here. I really messed that up.
Jay says he was first. David says he was second.
Mary's had lots of input. I haven't yet. I agree with what Bart said about this should go on the ballot as a contribution to a private group.
Sure.
I mean, I think this is a prima facie example of such things. The Boy Scouts, for example, asked us to pay for an $8,000 trailer for them, and we said, okay, now that's definitely going too far because that's really only benefiting one group. This is sort of kind of benefiting citizens in Richmond, but it's private trails that go into other towns. I just think that the voters should have a chance to have their say on this.
David?
Two things. I'm troubled with outlaying the money to purchase equipment. What nobody's talking about is that's the initial cost, but then what happens when an engine needs to be repaired, a sickle bar breaks, the ongoing maintenance. And let's be honest, if somebody is using the equipment and they don't own it, the chances of the equipment being used improperly or breaking is significantly higher. Truck I drove down here.
When they said maintenance, they meant repairs too, I believe. That was what I understood from our conversation with them.
Okay. Truck I drove down here tonight, I've been driving for 30 years. I drive it very carefully. I can't say in good conscience when I rent a car, I drive it as carefully as I do that truck. So, the prospect of the town outlaying this money and I fear that that would just be the initial cost and then the headache of maintenance, repair, potential abuse, etc. But secondly, I agree with Bart and Jay. I don't feel comfortable as a board allocating these funds. I really think that should be a decision that the voters make. And having said that, we're not going to be mowing trails between now and town meeting day. So that's all.
Chelsea?
Hi, thanks. So sorry I chatted, but you guys hadn't seen it. And I won't focus on sort of the wariness to this, more so as my questions about could this be done in a different way? So currently, if you look on our town website, we have a recreation committee that has no members, all open seats. And is this something that if we have so many volunteers at the town level maintaining our town-owned trails, even within our town forest, the Andrews Community Forest, is this something that the town could consider just purchasing a brush hog and trimmer that we keep in our town garage? And perhaps then there would be some interest in reinvigorating a recreation committee, and people can very similarly, essentially a very same model as what Richmond Mountain Trails is proposing, but rather it's very much localized to Richmond and Richmond's residents who want to maintain Richmond's trails. And then the Trails Committee or the Recreation Committee, if we, reinvigorate it, could use that. I'm just curious if that's a possibility or something that we could look into. I am not sure what the liability of that would look like because, as G was saying, there is insurance coverage through Richmond Mountain Trails with some sort of biking insurance. So I'm not sure if that's too much liability for the town or not, but I would be very much interested to see if something like that could happen, because it does sound like this could be of use to the town. And
sure.
Yeah, there's obviously trails if it's the town.
So
yeah, sorry. I was just my final thing was if it's perhaps it's not even just trails. If the town has a brush hog, it could be used for, other things like the Willis Hill. Somebody brush hogs that. They just recently went up and down it.
That was probably right, Preston.
Aaron,
That's that too.
I think we need to move on.
I just wanted to say I wasn't going after you, Judy, with the comments that I made. I more was basing them thinking they were coming from the Richmond Mountain Trails and they made you the spokesperson and they didn't come to talk to them about it. So I didn't want you to think I was being mean to you.
Oh, no, I don't take this personally. I think people had very good points. And I'm just sorry that I did not manage to get that this was on this agenda at this time out to those folks in time for them to be here. That was totally on me. They were perfectly willing to come.
Great, thank you. Sorry, Mary, we got to move on. We're 15 minutes behind.
The VYCC was supposed to be doing trail maintenance. They paid no taxes to town. They were involved in something called payment in lieu of taxes, and no one has pursued them. It precedes everybody on this board. But when they came to town, this is one of the things that they were supposed to do. No one has pursued it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Next, we have discussion of well, assuming no one wants to make a motion on that, so we're gonna move on. Discussion of renewing the agreement with Radiate Art regarding painting murals on the boarded up windows of the town center.
So I noticed this when I was looking into the requests for other artwork displays here at the town center, that the agreement that was put in place in 2020 with Radiate to paint the murals on the town center, there's a agreement in process for consideration of themes and then painting of the artwork. That actually expired 1 year after it was made, so it expired in 2021, and nobody put it on their calendar to go, oh yeah, let's renew that. So I look back at it, I think you guys have, sorry, Judy's here from Radiate. I think it's on your website, so I assume you've been following the process, but we might be worthwhile looking at that. I know there's a few things that were specific to those first years. Maybe we'll change those and update it for going forward and bring it back to the board for consideration. And I think part of the thought on a yearly renewal was that we could look at it every year and see how things might change. So just wanted to put that on the board's radar to see what we want to do. Judy, I don't know if you have any.
I just wanted to say that if you're gonna have some sort of committee or group that works on making a proposal, and then the next time you come to the select board, you have the proposal, I'd rather be part of that process, and Radiate would rather be part of that process, because we also have some community input. We've been told, because of I don't want to take a lot of time right now, but just one example is because it's a 1 year turnover and we're supposed to paint it every 12 months. We've had input in that we would like to paint it in August instead of May, because we could get a lot more community, a lot more people could work on it or different things. So that would just mean, before I heard this from you, I was going to come and say, can we keep these murals up for 1.5 years so that we can do August instead of May? But otherwise, I just want to be part of the process, and Radiate would like to be part of the process. So, if there's going to be discussion about it.
Sure.
Yes.
I think it makes sense to review it.
Yeah, I could work on with Judy and come back forward unless the board member also wants to be part of that. I think a lot of it's fairly straightforward.
You think you need one of us involved, or are you?
Does anybody have I guess I'll ask this, anybody in the board review it and you really have some things you want to have changed, or?
There was nothing that was
jumping out at you?
Me personally as needing to be changed.
I saw some housekeeping items, and if your 12-month thing in item 7A could be revised to say something different, I don't see it, why we wouldn't do that. So it seems
I could also
plausible to do
come,
it again.
according to this, I could also come to the board without changing the agreement and just say, can we keep it up a little longer this year?
Yeah.
So that's.
Yeah, I think, so it sounds like there's no, anything that's jumping out at the board that needs to be 100% changed. So why don't you and I work on it? We can do a track changes version, come back to the next meeting and see where we want to go. And we can discuss more details at that point. And if it's not getting repainted until May, if we have a new agreement in place in the next month or so, we could probably include until August. Yeah. I think there's some wiggle room.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have approval of minutes, purchase orders and warrants. So first you have the minutes of the 10/20/2025 meeting, which will be, sorry, let me pull these up. I am drawing a blank on which one's which.
So the 20th regularly scheduled one, 22nd is the budget, 25th is MCTV.
Yeah, perfect. So this would be 10/20/2025 with the second October regularly scheduled meeting.
Adam, this is David, move to approve.
Is Bart, I'll second it.
Motion a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Next we have the 10/22, which would be the budget meeting.
Adam, this is David, move to approve.
Is Bart second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And then we have our long 5-minute meeting.
Adam, this is David, move to approve.
Bart second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Same.
We're here. Great.
Adam, this is David. I'll move to approve the warrants as presented.
Want to do 2 purchase orders first, please?
Okay.
Okay, thanks. I just like to go purchase orders then warrants, because if a purchase order fails and it's on the warrant, well, we gotta pull it out of the warrant.
So Adam, this is David. I move to approve purchase order 5258 to SD Ireland for concrete for the East Main Street sidewalk project in an amount not to exceed $96,293. And I understand this is up from what we originally approved. So we're increasing the amount.
And the reason why it's up is I think we estimated everything at 5 inches deep for the sidewalk. That varied over the length of the sidewalk, and a lot of it was closer to 6 or a little bit more inches. So there was an additional amount of concrete that was used. There was also some walkways that we had to regrade and redo to make sure we connected at the proper grade. I think there were 4 stairways we had to put in to kind of get people back up to the sidewalk as they got raised a bit. So just some additional work that wasn't in the initial bid. It kind of changed as the contract moved forward.
Thank you.
I don't think this was seconded.
It was not.
Is Caitlin all second?
Motion in a second. Any discussion?
I'm glad that that project is finally done. That's a headache for a decade.
Yeah, Pete did a great job on it.
Yeah.
Not done.
We also
Yeah,
paid
yeah.
a significant amount of money doing it in-house.
I'll do a vote.
Jay,
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
Aye.
Adam, this is David, move to approve purchase order number 5357 to Dubois and King for engineering for the emergency watershed protection program projects that were a result of the 2024 flood in the amount of $3,000.
Is Bart, I'll second?
Just a quick note on that. This is 100% being reimbursed by the Emergency Watershed Protection Program. Because these are all actually private property sites, but the way the grant money is, it flows through the town to fund the private property sites.
Thanks, Josh.
Motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So those are the only 2 POs. right?
Yep, and then on the warrants.
So now we will do warrants. David.
Adam, this is David. I'll move to approve the warrants as presented.
Is Caitlin all second?
Motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Items for next agenda.
Up to you.
I'm sure, yeah.
So what are we gonna call it? Huntington Road traffic measures?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want to, I mean, we can talk more, but do we want to start by re-reviewing the study?
Circle, because the initial things we did, everyone hated, and a lot of people, I wish they were still here, because I would tell them. Please. 4-way stop, the same people who said that, said they didn't want one when we proposed this, so.
Well, and that means if we do have a proposal, it was a study at the 4-way stop and the teardrop island. And everybody thought that was too much money. So then we moved on to some smaller changes that Pete did, and then Pete proposed this. So are we back at reviewing the study? I mean, maybe a year and a half later, we want to do it. I mean, it could be.
I think we should review the study again.
Yeah.
I sent out an email with some
Yeah.
AI based input. And I think we should just start the conversation again with the study and let that.
You take the point that like every single discussion we've had about any traffic measures is only physical changes to the road are actually effective. Yeah, like we can, putting signs up and all that, like everyone likes the idea of it because it makes them feel good, not because it changes it. Like, I don't know, something.
We did something.
Feels like you're doing something. Feels like, cool. I don't know. So we're gonna end up with a four-way stop or speed bumps or rumble strips or something. If we actually want to.
There are some other suggestions.
Or we want.
We should not discuss.
Yeah, we should.
Anyway.
You got,
So I guess we'll review, we should review what was talked about previously and then maybe talk about it from, plan on talking about it from FARs all the way through, because I know that keeps becoming a thing, is what is the scope of what we're talking about? So we should define that.
And Caitlin's email is actually pretty helpful and succinct.
I agree. Yeah.
As it is.
do you want to give Richmond Mountain Trails a chance to come back with a representative and explain more of their thoughts and?
I think it would be fair personally.
Yeah.
Transparency doesn't hurt.
I think
This is
some
like
paths
trails.
forward if
Yeah.
they want to take them.
Our trails do need to be maintained. I mean, I think that the idea of just giving them the money to do whatever they want with the equipment is.
Yeah, if we pay for it, I think there's a point to be made about keeping it on town property.
We've got several other options.
We do have a need and they have manpower, and so figuring
Yeah,
out
yeah.
the in between seems worthwhile.
Or we could get a whole bunch of goats.
We have a friend that has goats to clear land, and I asked her, was it worth it? And she said, honestly, you gotta really want the goats, because no, it's not worth it.
You gotta like goats.
Yeah, the amount of time to keep the goats corralled does not outweigh the amount of time you would have to just clear the land yourself.
And nobody remembers all the jelly beans.
Oh, right.
Go poop.
Oh.
Oh.
Or not black licorice? Hmm.
Okay.
Anything else for next meeting?
I'm sure we'll find 15 to 20 items between now and then.
Chairman, move to adjourn.
So did you guys want to do an exec? There was looking at the Greystone agreement for stormwater. I did want to get some feedback, and since it's
I retract my motion.
it's a contract negotiation,
We should do it.
Yeah,
I was hoping that we would do it.
okay.
I retract my motion.
Oh, bummer. So, we need to do some motions to into executive session.
Did I recuse myself from this list? Should I recuse myself from this, or did we just?
Yeah, I don't see how you have a benefit.
I don't have.
I see a conflict.
Okay, I'm not gonna make a motion.
I closed my laptop, so I don't have it.
I put my thing.
I'm the chair.
For me to read the motion, and someone can say yes.
That.
I move to amend the oh, wait. No, I give you guys motions.
No, you did. They're at the very bottom. Oh, I can find mine.
It's not for myself.
Here,
I got it.
you got it. It's right here. Read this.
Why did that not print out for myself? That's odd.
This is going downhill fast. We better get something done in.
Here we go. It's not in the. Here we go. This one.
Mr. Chairman, I move to find the premature public knowledge about the stormwater system maintenance agreement with Greystone Estate Residents Associate. With Greystone Estates Residents Association for 3-acre stormwater permit would cause the town or person to suffer a substantial disadvantage.
Is Bardo second?
Motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter into executive session to discuss the stormwater system maintenance agreement with Greystone Estates Residents Association for 3-acre stormwater permit under the provisions of 1 VSA 313A1A of the Vermont statutes, and to provide to invite town manager Josh Arneson into the executive session.
Is Bardo second?
Actually read that better than I can. Close.
Motion in a second. All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're in executive session. We will be back in 5 minutes.
Chairman, move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned. Have a good evening.